Hi guys, this is Juno and welcome back to another Summoners War video. I know I'm kind of late, but we have a new event and I currently think it's awesome. But I think there's a lot of people, well, I got some requests from people on YouTube and they want to know what are my recommendations for the event scrolls. So yeah, in this video, I'm going to give you guys my recommendations for early game players, probably the NAF 5s and NAF 4s, and for everyone after that. And I'll give my reasonings why. So let's get into the video. So yeah, you guys should know that, this 7-year seal shop is in the island now for everybody. And everybody should have an option before these Devilmons where you guys could buy these 7-year special scrolls, right? You guys don't see mine because I already bought all 100. I didn't summon them, but that will be coming in a later stream and it will be on YouTube, so look forward to that. But nonetheless, this scroll is pretty special because you could create your own pool of monsters that you want to pull from. And you guys will see mine. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it as this, but this is my current list. I'm not gonna go into details why I put these on here, but there will be certain units that will come up from that. You guys will probably know why I have put them on my list. But nonetheless, let's start with the early game players. We'll start with the fire units. I think I'm gonna pick like 2 to 3 for each element, so I hope that this helps. But for number 1, for early game players, and obviously if you guys don't have her, I think your first choice should be the Eureka, the Occult Girl. So this girl is so useful in early game in Toa, right? Because she brings in all these AoE skills with continuous damage. And she has somehow her own turn cycling with her skill 1, even though she's not on violent, right? Because if she gets asleep, she gains another turn. She's just so useful in Toa hard, which allows you to clear it much faster without having to, create other units. So just from that, she should be a very high priority pick. She's also very good in RTA later, plus guild battles, siege battles. So I think she is a no-brainer. She is also pretty easy to rune as well. If you are early game, you could feel free to put her on really any type of build. Later, if you do get some nice despair runes, you can give her despair, which could add more control with her kit. And then if you're getting into like later game, there are people that put her on violent, where so she could actually bring in more control with the turn cycling she gets with her skill 1 plus the violent procs. The second pick I would say that is most helpful for early game players has to be the Fire Oracle, which is the Juno. So Juno, she was a very mediocre pick before she got her buffs, but right now in the current meta, she is very good, and it allows you to make a early arena defense. Juno is a very popular unit in AD because of her passive, where if she has harmful effects, she cleanses all of those, she heals herself. Because of this passive, she is very popular in AD, and she's very popular in siege defense, sometimes are also in Guild War defense, so she's very versatile there. She has an AoE strip, which is pretty consistent, so she is a very popular stripper too. And her skill 1 is, not that special, but nonetheless, she brings a lot, especially if you put her on despair. Turn cycle with her skill 1, she could AoE stun with her skill 2, or get strip stun, however you would like to call it. And with their skill 3, it's kind of hard to kill her if the opponent brings in a lot of debuffs. So I think the Oracle, the Fire Oracle Juno, is also a very popular pick. So I think those are the 2 units that I would go for as an early game player. To be honest, I don't know if there's anything that I could state here that is noteworthy other than those 2 for an early game player. I mean, obviously there's a lot of good units here that you guys would want if you don't have them, but for simply as an early game player, I think Juno and the Rika are the most popular picks. That's what I would go for if I don't have those two. So for the water units, I know if this was 2-3 years ago, there's going to be a no-brainer first pick in the water unit section if you didn't have him, and that is the Varad. However, Varad is kind of dead, and that is because of the unit called Tyrone in the Nat 4 section. Varad is no longer a very popular pick, and I wouldn't choose Varad. So the number one unit that I would go for that's very versatile in early game is going to be the Bastet. Bastet is a unit that everybody wants even in late game because she's a unique unit that has an attack bar boost. I mean, other than like Bernard and Kabila plus the Megan, there aren't a lot of units that give attack bar boost and attack buff. And Bastet does both of that. Her skill 3 increases the attack bar of all allies by 25%, plus shield, and plus attack buff. Her kit is just too good to ignore. So I think Bastet is a very popular pick. I don't have much things to say other than that because you could just pair her up with so many other units and make different teams to use in your AO, your Guild War offense, Siege offense, so on and so forth. So I have to say Bastet is probably one of the best choices. Now number 2, this is where it gets hard because as an early game player, I don't think there's a lot of units here that are good. So I'm going to pick a unit that I personally think that I would have liked as an early game player. Okay, after Bastet, it's kind of hard. As an early game player, I don't know. Again, there aren't much units that's really helpful in early game in these Nat 5 section. But I'll have to say, 1, Wusa is probably a good pick for an early game player. Although as it goes into the later stages of in your gameplay, in your game life, Wusa will be used less and less. But his kit is really nice. A 3-turn immunity plus shield, heal, and a sleep. He is really good. And he has an insane base speed, although it says 102 right now when he's awakened. It's like 115 or 118. He has one of the fastest base speed in the game. So it's pretty easy to make him go first if you put him on Swift. So because of that, I think Wusa is also a popular pick. And personally, I wish that I had the Samath in my box when I was in early game so that my AD would look scarier so that less people would come into me. Although that is kind of, bad because in an early game player, you want to put up a weak defense so that you get attacked by weak opponents so you could farm arena points. But as the games go on, I mean, as you continue to play the game, you want to start creating a arena defense, and by having a Samath changes what route you could go in the defense. Just by having him, your speed AD looks a lot scarier compared to a Vanessa, I think. Well, it really depends on the other units, but I really want a Samath. Even in your AO, he's really helpful compared to a Vanessa, bringing her into your AO. Samath is a lot more helpful, and again, one of the few 33 speed leads in the game. So in the AO side, definitely more beneficial for you when you're bringing him into the AO. AD, questionable. It really depends on the team. Right now, I think tanky teams are still a lot stronger because they're a little easier to rune. So Vanessa is also still very popular. But I think those are the 3. I have to say it's the Bastet, the Wusa, and the Fairy King. Other things that almost were picked is probably the Annabelle, and that's it, I think. Yeah, because all the other units are pretty lackluster currently, or need really good rune quality, or at least they need good rune quality for them to shine. So knowing that, the 3 picks are the Wusa, Bastet, and Samath. There's one more compared to the fire units, but that's what I think. Okay guys, so now we're on the win section, and here it was really hard for me to decide on the 3 units that I would go for as an early game player if I didn't have these units. But my number 1 pick that I'll go for sure is the Wind Dragon Knight, which is the Leo. Leo is just too unique to ignore. Just by having him, you get much more variety in your offense and your defense, right? This passive, which the attack speed of all enemies and allies is limited to your attack speed, is too unique. It's unique to this one unit, and he could change the game, right? It could totally nullify a arena defense, and it could totally mess up the pick and ban later on in RTA. And it's not like his kit is bad. Because of this passive, all of his skills decreases attack bar. Well, has a chance to decrease attack bar. So it can mess up with their turn order. And this Torrent skill is one of the strongest skills in the game. When your HP is lower than 30%, it ignores defense and it can wipe out a unit with one hit, usually. I know he's kind of hard to rune, but the fact that you don't have to give him speed allows him to be runed with lower rune quality, really, right? Because many of these runes are obligated to be fast, but he's one unit that does not have to be fast, and once he's on the field, everybody's speed is limited to him. So technically, he's not really that hard to rune. So Leo was my first pick. Number two is the Wind Panda. I think if you guys don't have Wind Panda, you guys should go for Wind Panda. Again, one of the strongest passive in the game. Let's ignore 8 L&D passives, okay? But still one of the strongest passive in the game, where his attack bar gets increased by 20% every time he's attacked. And his damage does more damage proportions to his defense. He does a lot of damage, and he has the potential to solo teams. He is a guild PvP cheat code, right? Guild battles or siege battles. But in offense, he's really kind of used as a cheat code, right? Because he's so good. But because of that, I think you guys should go for the Wind Panda. He's still very strong. Pretty hard to rune because usually you don't want to make like a glass cannon panda. Although even though if you give him full defense, he's not really a glass cannon because he has a lot of defense. But the thing is, if they bring in units that ignore defense, he could get wiped out in one turn, and you really don't want that. So you do want to give him HP to defense, you want to give him speed, you want to give him resistance, you want to give him some accuracy so he can land his defense break. So he is kind of hard to rune, but nonetheless, he is a unit that is worthy for one of the best runes in your account in your early game stages. Finally, the last one is the Savannah. So I know here some people might be like, what the heck, why is it Savannah? There's like these other better units. But to be honest, I think Savannah is good because one, she is useful in dungeons. So she has a place in PvE, right? GB12. You could use her in GB12, which is she's totally viable there. Two, she's kind of like one of the strongest siege defense, and her offense is really great too. So those three reasons why the Savannah is here, the Wind Beast Rider. I mean, looking at it now, it looks like all of the units in the Wind side that I chose is kind of very offensive picks, right? The Wind Dragon Knight, the Wind Panda, and the Savannah. But I really think that they are still very strong in early game. You're gonna be using them probably everywhere, right? Probably everywhere. So that's what I looked for. I looked for units that you will utilize a lot in early game, and with the condition that it does not require very high rune quality. So those are the reasons why I chose these units. Although the Savannah does require high rune quality, but you could put her on Swift and she will be fine as well. Well, those are the 7 picks that I would go with. So if I make this list now with the early game picks, it will look something like, I guess I can't pick the last one, so I'll take out the Wusa. So if I pick my 7, it will look like this. And obviously, the water is my weakest link. I think the Samath could be replaced with the Wusa or the Samath. But that's my own opinion. So this is probably the picks that I will pick as a early game player. Now for the Nat 4s, because some people are curious about that. I'm not gonna choose a lot, but I'll choose one for each element, I think. For the water, Tyrone is a no-brainer. If you guys don't have Tyrone, if you guys don't have Varad, Tyrone should be a pick. And that's it. I think that's the one pick I would go for in the Nav Force for the water. For fire, I would either go for the Kamoon if you don't have it, because Kamoon's still good. Cocky, still good, but Cocky requires high rune quality. Kind of doesn't need it. Okay, never mind. Kamoon or Cocky, I think those two are probably what I would go for. And if I need a wind, there's a couple of picks. One is the Lucian. There's people that still don't have the Lucian, and Lucian should be a popular first pick. Another one that is very good is probably the Skogul, because Skogul is kind of like a siege battle cheat code as well, although it doesn't work all the time, but he is viable in a lot of defenses and offenses. And finally, if you guys do want to speed up your GB12, I think Melia is also a good pick. I don't know why, but there's just better units in the win side for both NAV4s and NAV5s. This is how my NAV4 list will look as a early game player. So now let's go into my late game recommendations. Let's go back to NAV5s. For NAV5s, my late game recommendations, one for the win unit, is still the Leo. I think Leo is still too good to ignore. For early game, late game, doesn't matter. You guys need to have the Leo. He's also very good in RTA. He's a very good counter pick, so I'll go for that. He's very good in AO because he counters certain ADs, arena defenses, so that's good there. That's everything. That's all you have to know about Leo. Because he allows you to have all this variety, I think he's a unit you should have. And here too, number 2 is the Sierra. I was gonna put Sierra in the early game list as well, but Sierra is really rune hungry. She has to be rune efficient, like 100 plus, to be really good. So I think it is good to say that Sierra is coming out now. And last but not least, I'm gonna say Chung Peng, because I think Chung Peng is still a very broken unit. I know he got nerfed slightly, but I think he's still pretty broken. All of these 3 units are still very meta. I'm pretty sure they're still being abused heavily in RTA. So those are the 3 win units I would go for. In the water, if you guys don't have her, I'll still go Bastet. Because Bastet's kit is very unique. There aren't a lot of units that bring in attack bar boost plus attack buff plus a shield, something like that. So there you go. Well, Megan does something similarly, but Megan has only a 20% boost. That causes you to have a much more higher rune quality compared to a Bastet. So I'll choose Bastet. And then, to be honest, there's very good units here, right? There's like the Barbara. Barbara is very good. The Omyoji, the water Omyoji is very good. Samath is really good late game too, because as it goes into late game, you want another 33 speed lead, so you have more variety in your AD. But I eventually went with the Moor, because I'm assuming that you guys at this point of the game, you could do all the dungeons. You have certain teams in your PvP, and this unit is just too OP in RTA. He didn't get buffed. He didn't get nerfed, which is crazy. So it's just too hard to ignore this unit. So I will pick the Moor. I'm personally going for him as well. And yeah, his kit is too good. And it's crazy how Comp Twist didn't nerf him. So I just can't ignore him, and I have to put him in my list. Some people might not agree with the Bastet because he's not really that strong in RTA. She's not really that strong in RTA, to be exact. So you could take out the Bastet and put in Barbara. I think Barbara is very good, or the Omyoji if you like the way you could play with her. But I think her playstyle is very specific. She's stronger in certain team comps. So I think Barbara, which is good in almost every aspect, I'm not saying all aspects, but in every aspect, I think she is a good pick as well. So I'll leave it like this actually, because Bastet is very conditional as well, and she's not that great in RTA. but this Barbara is good outside of RTA, in RTA. More is just, I think it's only good in RTA, maybe in AD as well, but really RTA. But he's just too good in RTA, so I'm not going to ignore that. Fire. For Fire, I still have to say Oki. If you don't have Oki on this, I know he got nerfed, and I've already read Reddit posts where people are complaining how he's being a lot less consistent. But I think before that he was just too OP, but now he's just good, pretty good, really good. Yeah, so he's still very, very good. So that's what I would go with, and then I would go with the Juno if you don't have Juno. Obviously, there's in late game. It really depends on your box. You might already have certain units here, so you guys might want to know what better units that you guys could pick. So in late game, I would say Vanessa is still a good unit because she has a 33 speed lead, and I heard the Masha is obviously really good, and that's about it, I think. Right, like the Leo's, I mean the Laika is good, the Rika's good still if you don't have her, the Fire Druid, the Daphnis. I heard that Drogon is really good now too, but there's a lot of other units. But I think that if you don't have these units, this is what you should go for. I'm not gonna talk about nav 4s for late game because I'm pretty sure you guys, for people that played for like 1,000 days, I'm pretty sure they already have a lot of nav 4s that they wanted. So I think there's no point. Just go for something that you don't have or that you want skill ups for. But yeah, so this is my pick that I would go for if I don't have these units. This is how my pick looks like. Some people might disagree and maybe like say get rid of Diana and put in like the Samath, which I really want. But to be honest, I think these units are just too strong. Like Diana is really good still in second turn, right? And it counters certain teams. So I really want the Diana. Leo, I've said it multiple times in this video, so there's no brainer for that. Chung Peng, too good. Moore, too good. Barbara, too good. And Juno, come on. My name is Juno, so I have to get the Juno. And Juno is really good. And finally the Oki, because I really want the Oki as well. And there aren't a lot of options. Oh, sorry. And there aren't a lot of options for in the fire units for me. But yeah, guys, that was my explanation. I hope it helped, and I hope it was enough to persuade you guys to pick certain units over what you guys already had picked. But nonetheless, that is my explanation. And I hope everybody the best of lucks for their 7th year special scrolls. I'm going to be summoning mine probably a week or two later, but I really hope I do get a new Nat 5 because these Nat 5s will definitely help me in this new season of RTA. But yeah, guys, thank you, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye.